My name is Gertrud Kohler. My maiden name was Koehler. I grew up in town Göppingen near Stuttgart in southern Germany. I was born in 1936 and I was 3 years old when the war started and 10 years old when the war ended. When you are in a totalitarian government, you have no freedom. We in America can hardly imagine how it is to live under such a government. If you spoke up, you would have been shot on the spot or you were put in a concentration camp, and many Germans were in concentration camps. This lady is my cousin's girlfriend. They both were in the BDM, which was a youth organization during Hitler's time, and it was mandatory that all children of a certain age attend Hitler Youth. My older brother was old enough to be in the Hitler Youth and he hated it. It was so structured and so disciplined and so militaristic. My brother always tried to get out of it and mother had to write excuse slips, like my brother had one pair of shoes and it happened to be at the shoemaker's when he had to go to Hitler Youth, so that was an excuse. I remember that one. There was very little food available and you got ration cards, and I don't remember how much you got, but very little. We had good teachers, but we had practically no material and practically no textbooks. We had very little paper, so there was no waste of anything. Nobody had anything, so we were all equal. My father had a nice library of Russian authors and or maybe anti-Nazi stuff, and they would haul it away. And then they came and took our skis because they needed skis for the war, for the soldiers. So they just came and took whatever they needed. I have a friend, her father was a Nazi, and he made money on Nazism because he was a contractor, and he got contracts to build part of the Autobahn. And so he got contracts, and so he got rich off it. But her mother and her grandmother were very anti-Nazi. And so in the house there was a lot of friction. And she, as a girl, said, if he ever hurts my grandmother, I'm going to kill him. As a 10-year-old girl, that's how she felt. My cousin and her father was very anti-Hitler, and you had to have a picture of Hitler in your apartment. So she said, in my house, Hitler's picture hangs in the bathroom. And that, of course, was a no-no. This uncle also listened to BBC under the featherbed, so they couldn't be overheard. But somebody knew that my father and this uncle listened to BBC News, and somebody turned them in. And my uncle was incarcerated. People that had an inkling that something was going on, they were powerless. Things got better in Germany and I had a job, but I felt confined in a small town. I thought I had to break out and see the world before I could settle down and get married and be a housewife. My friend Walpurgis, she spent a year in Poughkeepsie, New York, and when she came back, she spoke so highly of America, and that gave me the idea that I may want to immigrate to America too. And so I asked some people that we knew in the United States whether they would be my sponsors, and they agreed. And so I could legally immigrate to the United States, and I had planned to be there for a year. And I lived in New York, in Manhattan, and life was so interesting. In Germany, French and Germans were enemies, English and Germans were enemies, and Russians, and everybody had an enemy. But in America, suddenly they could live together peacefully, and that always impressed me very much. I met a man that I married and that kept me in the United States, in California, and I felt home here right from the beginning.